Welcome back to Inside the Box. I'm your host, Joanna Lee, and we are in the third episode of our International Women's Day series. Today's guest is a truly remarkable musician and woman. She is a brilliant pianist, educator, marathon runner, and leader in the Edmonton community. One of these roles includes being the artistic director of the Edmonton Recital Society. She has been consistently recognized as a soloist, chamber musician, and has performed in festivals across Canada, the US, and Europe, and has won international and national competitions, as well as many accolades and awards. Also, she has been featured with orchestras across Canada, performed in notable venues all around the world, and performed for former Prime Minister of Canada and Queen Elizabeth II. It is my absolute pleasure to present the sensational Sarah Ho. Welcome, Sarah. It's
Thank you, Joanna. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the lovely intro.
Anytime. So I really wanted to start off with your origin story and how you got to where you are today musically.
Well, I grew up in Edmonton. I wasn't born here. I was born in Brunei, and we came over when I was a year old. So, you know, Edmonton's all I've known. I began playing sort of late, I guess, for how early. I'm sure you started very early. I was 6.5. So, you know, that's, you know, not young for a beginner. But I loved it immediately. And at around the age of 10, I switched teachers. I switched to Wolfram Lennebach, which a lot of people will know that name. And that's when things got really serious. I was practicing, you know, 4 hours a day as a child at that age. And and then went away to school, went to Indiana for 4 years, and then went off to Yale, and I stayed in Connecticut for about 5 years. And then got married and moved back here, which was an unexpected move, but you know, it's worked out really well. So here I am.
Absolutely. And it's a good thing you did, because I would never had the chance to have collaborated with you.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So as a Canadian who went to the top schools in the States, what was it like? And would you do it the same way all over again under the current political climate?
That's a really interesting question. It was great. I mean, it was exactly what I needed. You know, it's both of the schools were amazing schools. I chose the schools that I went to based off of who I wanted to study with, right? So so would I do it again? I would, because, you know, because of who was there teaching. And it's funny because when I went away, I was 17. And the first place I went to was Bloomington, Indiana, which is a tiny town. It's pretty much just the university, right? But it is in the Midwest. And like now looking back, you know, there's obviously interesting experiences I had there that, you know, I wouldn't have had if I had gone to New York or something. But anyway, you know, it's all good. I don't regret any of it. I had great years there, and yeah, I absolutely would still do it again. I think, you know, no matter where you are in the States, the nice thing about being in a music school is, as you of course know, like any music school, the students are so diverse, right? I mean, they come from all over the world, of every race and color and religion and everything. So, you know, the people are what make your experiences, right? Like not necessarily where you are geographically. So yeah, so I had a great time, and my teachers were amazing. They totally shaped who I became as a musician. So yeah, I'm super grateful for those opportunities, and would definitely do it again. Yeah.
Wow, it sounded like you had quite the experience. And speaking of experiences, you've had quite a culturally diverse audience throughout your musical career. What was it like for you to play for the former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and the Queen of England?
Well, I remember a lot more about the Mulroney thing, just because even though I was much younger, I think I was 11 or 12, but it was at like a private sort of convention, I guess, for his party, and I was the only one playing, and I got to meet him, and you know, we have pictures and everything, and so that I remember that, and it was exciting, you know, at the time. And the Queen, I played with my friend Jessica Lennebach when the Queen came for to Alberta. I can't remember the exact occasion, but I mean, it was an interesting thing to be able to do as well. And except we didn't even get to come close to her. Like we didn't get to meet her or anything like that. So yeah. But I mean, both things are interesting now, just especially like they make for good stories for me to tell my kids. My kids definitely find that kind of stuff cool. So yeah,
Well, you're right. That's a great story to always share with your students and even your own kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with students and children and stuff because I've obviously been able to play for some amazing musicians, right? But none of them would know who they are. But if you mention you played for the prime minister, they're like, oh wow. So whereas like most musicians wouldn't care about any of that kind of stuff, right? So
that is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like you also had multiple roles as a pianist, educator, and leadership roles. Can you tell me more about them and what led you to these roles, especially your new role as the artistic director in the Edmonton Recital Society?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, I guess, of all my roles are super intertwined and everything, one role benefits from the other. And like growing up, I didn't, concretely think about the fact that I would become a teacher one day. But definitely, it's a huge part of my life, right? Teaching. And I've been doing it for so many years now and hopefully have evolved as a teacher. But I mean, as you know, I'm sure teaching people really can improve your own playing because you really have to stop and think, about why do you do certain things or how to explain something to someone or so yeah, I think they've benefited me, all the different roles that I've taken benefited me in every way. And as far as the leadership role, that's been, in the works, I guess, for a long time. When I first moved back in 2005, I became friends with Aaron Au. Aaron, he's really well known here in the community in Edmonton. And it was his idea actually to start this recital society. And in the beginning, it was just Aaron and me and Aline Hackelman, who is principal horn with the symphony. And we also had a lawyer on the board and another guy, Gabe Shelley, to kind of round us out, because otherwise we had no idea what we were doing. We're just three musicians. We didn't know how to properly do anything else. But, and it grew and grew, and Aaron, retired from the board, and now we have a new president and everything. And it's just become, I can't remember what year we're in now. I guess we're in our 15th season or so, but this one was canceled. But yeah. And so my first year taking over as artistic director, because I was always, I think I was always called the assistant artistic director. I was on the committee. But 2021 was my first season that I had planned, that I was really proud and excited to present. And then of course the pandemic hit and and it hit so early, right? Early March. So we didn't even get to put our brochure out or anything. Like there was no announcement of any of the concerts, but I mean, it's okay. So everything's been postponed obviously till next season, and hopefully it'll all work out to have all those artists come back. But yeah, I guess our whole mandate at the ERS is that, we try to bring in, really big talent and stuff, but also we really try to feature people who have strong ties to Edmonton, right? Because we have a lot of amazing musicians here. So whether it's that they now work here or that they grew up here or that, they grew up here and went away and will come back and play for us, we try to always have that, like a strong tie to the city. And I think people appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of our biggest audiences are not for the people who, have the biggest names or the biggest careers, but they're for, the people that are from the hometown, and, everybody comes out to hear them and the hall is packed. And so it's really wonderful to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really great business concept because it's supporting local artists or local own artists as well as big names, and you have a very diverse roster of artists coming in, it sounds like.
Yeah, we try to. Yeah.
Wow. Backtracking back to your position as a teacher and being in the position of both student and teacher, how should we approach teaching and educating others?
That's a great question too. You have all the good questions. I think, in teaching my students and also in teaching my kids, right? I teach my kids piano as well, but also like this year they've been at home learning. And so I've been, kind of monitoring schoolwork a tiny bit, nothing big. But I think one of the things I always try to make sure everyone knows is that hard work is not always fun, right? I mean, it's often not fun, right? And that it's important to stick with it even when it's hard. On the days that it is super hard and extremely unenjoyable, like those are the days that you have to focus extra, right? And that's when you're going to really, you don't realize it now, but that's when you're going to improve, right? And I'm a big believer in discipline, and I think it can get people really far. And I just, that's one of my biggest things, is to make sure that, I'm not there to make sure that you're going to have fun every single minute, of your lesson or of your studies. And that's okay. Like sometimes I can sense that, a student is really miserable doing a piece, or, but I don't let them give up. I think that it's important to see it through. And also though, I think, because I've been asked before by prospective students when they want to start taking lessons, like, well, what is your teaching style? What do you think we can get from you? And I always think that's a hard question. I'm sure that if you listened to all my lessons, I'm sure there are things that I say to everybody. But I think a big principle that I like to go by when I teach is that you have to really make sure you're adjusting to the needs of each person, right? Because it's, especially for music, I mean, not everyone is going to respond the same way, to things that you say. And it just kind of to be understanding of everyone's situations, and,
Absolutely.
understanding why they couldn't practice that week, or,
My dog ate my iPad. Is
yeah.
usually one that we get, right?
My dog ate my violin bow.
Oh, my dog chewed on my violin hair, or my bow hair.
Have you heard that before?
I have, and
yeah.
quite frankly, I'm just like, well, I guess you should keep it in a safe spot. Well, what is your dog doing? Rummaging.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I've had a lot of injury stories, and I think they're probably all true. But sometimes I'm like, really, like I once had a student had to cancel her lesson because she'd been doing something crazy in a gym class and like did way too many push-ups, and then her shoulder hurt. And so, I've heard it all.
Speaking of injuries, have you ever been in a position where you ran way too hard and you couldn't feel your body and you couldn't teach the next day?
No. I luckily have always been able to teach. Yeah. Although, I mean, having said that, I do make sure not to schedule a long day of teaching, like right after a marathon or something, right? Then I would be, yeah. I'd probably be kind of miserable.
Absolutely. That's good. Yeah. Time management.
Yeah. But at least when you play piano, you sit down. So it's not as big of an issue.
Yeah. Well, speaking of roles, what would you tell young women who are like-minded and striving to be like you or pursuing a similar career path to yours?
I would say work hard. I guess, I mean, I don't want to say all the cheesy things, but, work hard and believe in yourself. And but also that try not to like have tunnel vision, maybe about what you think you want your life to look like or your career to look like. And I just say that because I know when I was first, going off to school, like I had grown up thinking I would be, a solo pianist, right? Like, and so I focused on that a lot. And looking back at my bachelor's, my undergrad degree, like I wish that I had played with more people. I wish I had done more chamber music. I mean, I did a lot in my grad school, but I wish I had done it earlier, so kind of just to be more open and just to be aware that as a musician, like we have to wear many hats. You know, you're going to be doing a lot of things that maybe you thought you would never do, you know, good and bad. So yeah, just to be open and just work hard and never give up, and, you know, be ready to explore many different avenues, I guess.
Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice. Thank you for sharing that. And what are your thoughts on the classical music scene today, and what measures can we take to succeed, especially as your role?
Yeah, this is a worrisome issue, I think. Like, I think before the pandemic, it was already kind of, you know, a problem for many organizations to try and keep numbers up. I mean, at the ERS, we are always trying to figure out how to get more tickets, you know, sold, and more people in the seats. And it's just hard. I mean, it's really hard. Like, sometimes you feel like there just isn't the interest. And now with the pandemic, like, so many, I worry sometimes. You wonder, like, are the arts going to recover? Obviously, I sure hope so. And I guess we'll just have to see. But I mean, what can we do? I guess we can keep playing, you know, we can keep playing, and we can keep listening to each other and supporting our fellow musicians, of course, and staying as active musically as we can, like through all the new mediums, obviously, right? Everybody's recording, everybody's sharing, you know, their music online now. And I think that's obviously very helpful, right? And it's going to help keep things alive. And but yeah, and I guess also as a musician or a non-musician, if you have the means to be able to help out financially an arts organization, I think that's really obviously very important too. But yeah, I guess, I mean, I know, you know, for ERS, we're really going to have to see how things go the next season or two, you know, because we had losses in funding because of the pandemic, and just lots of things that we'll have to be, you know, pretty careful on coming up, like a lot of arts organizations. So, but yeah, I do think, you know, people do really love the arts. I think, whether or not everybody realizes it during this pandemic, but I think in the end, you know, everything, hopefully, it might take some time, but I'm hoping that everything will be back to where it once was and better.
For sure. And I'm rooting for you on the other side. So, well, moving on, let's talk about your proudest accomplishments.
Did you mean musically or just in general?
Broadly speaking, I would say.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a hard, I feel like it's not something I ever sit down and think about. Well, I guess I'm extremely proud of my family. You know, they're like a huge part of my life, obviously. My kids, I'm super proud of my kids. And musically, I feel like it's certain performances that would stick out in my head, as not because they were, you know, in Carnegie Hall or whatever, but just because for them being, you know, very memorable for various reasons, I guess. I don't know if you call that a proudest accomplishment, but yeah, just certain things that stick out in my head. Like I played with the Edmonton Symphony when I was pregnant with my first son, but extremely pregnant. Like I was 37 and a half weeks pregnant. I mean, and looking back now, I think, oh my goodness, like that was pretty dangerous. Like that could have, you know, like it could have not happened, right? He could have been, because, you know, anything, he was, you know, you're full term when you're 37 weeks. So I mean, that's sort of, you know, that's a good memory, a good accomplishment, I think, that I got up there with my huge belly and I made it through the concert. And
oh wow, how old is your firstborn?
He just turned 11, actually. Yeah, on the 16th of March. Yeah, it's hard to believe. That I've been a mom for 11 years.
Happy belated birthday to your son.
Thanks.
Speaking of motherhood, how do you balance motherhood and your career based on your experience, and what words of wisdom would you impart on women who are in similar roles?
Well, as my oldest is now 11, and I have another son, and he is 7.5. So they're not, old, but they're also not babies or toddlers anymore. So I guess definitely the balancing act is a little bit easier now than when they were babies, right? Like I can think of so many things that were so difficult in the beginning. And just also with my first one, like just, being so naive, like not realizing like 4 weeks after he was born, I had another concerto scheduled. And I don't know, I would never do that now. But at the time when I was asked to do it, I thought, oh yeah, I'll have 4 weeks. His due date is here and it'll be fine. Right. And I mean, it was so stressful. Like, I think I just thought, oh, newborns just sleep all the time and I can just practice, whenever I want, like when he's sleeping. And obviously I just didn't know anything. So that was really difficult. And, and like nursing them is difficult because trying to, like, I went back to teaching like fairly early with both of them. And just, having to schedule my students, like, so that I would have enough time to pump in between and just all that. And like, one time I had a concert, and I had to bring my younger one with me because he wouldn't take a bottle from anybody. And so he was brought like with me and I nursed him like literally 5 minutes before the concert started. And so there's all that kind of stuff, that balancing act. Like I definitely don't miss the stress of that. That was really hard. And I know so many moms deal with that. And, like offices now have, pump rooms and, for moms, and it's difficult. And, but it's, obviously it's much easier now. They're older, but it's, of course, every day is still you're still trying to always balance and do everything you want to do and also be there for them because you're always thinking about them, right? They're like first and foremost in your mind. But as far as any advice, I mean, I feel like, I don't know if I'm, who am I to give people advice about motherhood, but I did hear, this is not my advice, but I heard someone else say it and it really resonated with me. And I think that's, moms are always trying to do so many different things, right? It's, like whether they have a career or not, or they're stay-at-home moms or whatever, they're always doing so many different jobs, right? And so I think what really kills women is thinking that, you have to do everything every day 100%, and if you don't, you failed that day, and I heard this mother, she's actually a mother professional athlete, and she was saying, it's just important to realize that one day you might kill it as a mother and not do so well at your job or not do so well, at your hobby or whatever it is, and just to accept and know that it's okay and that you're not going to be able to do everything, to its fullest every single day, and that's okay. It's fine. It's good.
Absolutely. And we also must remember that we're only human.
Exactly. Yeah. I think women are so hard on themselves, moms are so hard on themselves. And yeah, I think that's, part of, I know we're going to get to it, but International Women's Day and like just trying to support each other and like, be there for each other and try and acknowledge that everyone's just doing the best that they can, especially right now,
Yes, absolutely. And it must be twice as hard, I would imagine, with mothers that have to tend after their kids who don't go to school or have to be with them 24/7 and hold down a job. That's
yeah, definitely. I mean, luckily, like my work is obviously extremely flexible, right? I mean, Colin and I both have been working from home for like a full year now. But if I had to work the type of hours that he has to work, which some families are in that situation where it's like a full daytime, you got to do it all day long. You can't just do it whenever you feel like it or schedule it for the evening. Yes. It would be, I don't know how people do that because our kids are at home doing online school, but luckily like I can practice in between their breaks or I can practice in the evening and I can teach in the evening. And so, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I hear you. And kudos to you for raising a family and having a career and just balancing everything.
Trying to, yeah.
Well, speaking of other accomplishments, let's talk about your most recent accomplishment in the Boston Marathon and what that was like.
Yeah, that was, a mixed thing, of course, because I've been running since my last year of my undergrad. And it's every runner's dream, I guess, like to qualify for the Boston Marathon, right? So I had qualified twice, and the second time I actually got in, because not everyone that qualifies gets in. It's complicated, but anyway. So I got in and was supposed to run in April of 2020, which of course the race was canceled.
Yeah.
And so it became a virtual thing. So, so I'm still hoping to like one day actually run in Boston. That'll be, obviously even better, but yeah, it was super exciting because of course, like the big thing is just even getting in was like, really exciting for me. So yeah. I guess that's something I guess I'm proud of. I didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, that would be one of the things.
Absolutely. I mean, the marathon, that's a huge race to have competed in. So going back to marathon running, how did you get into it and what inspired you to get into it?
I don't actually know why I started running. I remember the day that I put on a pair of running shoes and decided to go running in Bloomington. And I just ran around this one, I think it was a park. It was just a little park. I think the park is like less than a mile around. And I don't know what possessed me to do it, because I did not grow up doing any sort of exercise, nothing. And I hadn't really ever been active throughout my college years. But yeah, so I did that, and I guess I really liked it. And but I didn't start racing until a few years after that. So my first half marathon was in 2004, and then my first full marathon was in 2005. And I loved it, and I think it happened to coincide with me finishing up at Yale and finishing my studies there with my teacher and getting ready to move back home, because there was like a lot of uncertainty in my life in that way, career wise, and I just didn't know what I was supposed to do next and what would the next steps look like. And I think running really gave me something to just focus on, it was something that I could control, that I could get better at, that I could see improvements if I did this, and this. And yeah, and ever since then, it's just become like, people talk about running as therapy, and it really is just like, it's to the point now where I feel like I have to do it every day. Otherwise I just don't even feel like myself, in a good way. Yeah, I'm making it sound like a bad addiction or something, but it's like, I love it. I do love it. And it's just, it clears my head. I think millions of people can attest to this. It clears my head, and it just makes me feel, it just makes me feel better no matter what's going on. I always feel better after a run. So I'm sure you feel the same way, right? You started to run.
Yes. It actually, there are so many advantages if you run outside, for sure. I find the difference between running on the treadmill and running outside. And I have to say, even on a rainy day, I prefer running outside now.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky you live somewhere like Vancouver. It's always so mild. You can pretty much spend 365 days a year running there outside.
It can get really cold though when you don't have the right gear, and you're just like, wow, I'm stuck.
Or if you're stuck in the rain, being wet is no fun.
No, absolutely not. I would not recommend that. And I would say always be prepared for a rainy day, especially here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of running, what would you tell a novice runner who wants to one day accomplish what you have over the years?
Similar to, I guess, playing piano or anything. I mean, I think it's just a lot of consistent work. I mean, just putting your shoes on every day, or whatever, but being smart about it, of course, because I think a lot of times people get over eager and they can get injured. But I don't know, just to make sure that you enjoy it, because obviously, because I do think that anybody can run a marathon, but most people don't want to, right? And so that's the biggest barrier, really. I think most people's bodies can get to that point where they can easily do that distance. It's not 100 miles or something, but it's mental, right? I mean, you want to or you don't want to. So I think, if you want to do something like that, then you just decide to put in the work every day, and yeah, there's no secret to it, I don't think. I mean, I'm talking as a, just a recreational runner, and obviously there are secrets to being a really, really good runner.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Teach me. Yeah, well,
How is your running going?
my running, well, it's been going steadily, but it's a very slow learning curve for me because
Mm-hmm.
I do have flat feet. So I'm
Oh,
running.
so do I.
Oh, really? Let's talk about
Completely flat. Yeah. Just
that.
it's yeah, like when I step, when you do the footprint test, like on
Yes.
with your wet feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
My whole foot shows, like the whole thing. There's no, yeah, my feet are completely flat.
Do you have orthotics?
I do. Yeah.
Do you run with them?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't run without them. Yeah. Do
Me
you
too.
have some?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Oh,
definitely.
that's good. See? Yeah. See, you're already set. You're good to go.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate all your advice and this discussion. Let's go back to musicianship. So, with the way the world is today as musicians, how can we bring in cultural diversity with an openness to society?
Yeah, that's a hard issue, I think. I mean, I think in a way, uh, we can already set a good example as classical musicians, because we are a very diverse group, right? I mean, musicians in general, right? Like I said before, I mean, so there is that. Um, but we can do better, of course, right? And I think more and more attention is being put on playing music from female composers, from Black composers, Asian composers. So we need to do more of that, uh, and also I think in terms of trying to be more welcoming for more types of audiences, right? Like I think there's probably a lot of people that maybe feel intimidated about going to a concert or a symphony concert, like they've never gone before and they don't know, if they would like the music. And I think we are seeing more arts organizations try to branch out and change the style of concerts and have more concerts that would be more appealing to like a younger crowd or a slightly different crowd than we would traditionally have. So but yeah, just obviously so much work for everybody to do in the world these days, right? I don't know. I don't have the easy answers.
Would you say in your recital series you're trying to implement that plan more and more these days?
um, well, yeah, I think, especially for Women's Day, we did have a exciting recital planned where it was just going to be all female musicians playing all female composers. And so I was really excited about that. And we are going to definitely reschedule that for next year too. And I'm hoping it's going to be, a yearly thing. But, definitely I feel like it shouldn't just be, something that we do March 8th or, in the month of March. Like I think, it should be something that we work on all the time, right? That we start to, try and figure out like, why are there not more females in this part or in this part or whatever, or people of this color. And yeah, so I think there's lots of things, lots of conversations that we all have to have. And definitely, in our organization, I think we should start to think about that even more than we already do.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. That's incredibly significant, especially with today's current climate, right? And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
last few days.
yeah.
Yeah. So, as a performing artist, what is your regimen in preparing for concerts?
Um, I don't like to over practice on the day of a concert.
Mhm.
I think that's not, for me, it doesn't work. I know there are people that
Yeah.
they practice a lot the day of a concert and that works for them. But for me, yeah, I don't like to run the whole program through ever. I would never do that. Lots of slow practice. I don't take naps. I know a lot of my friends will take a nap before a concert. I don't take naps. I don't do well with naps. So no napping. um, I will probably go for a run, but like nothing overly strenuous. I'll eat a banana backstage. You probably remember that. I don't know.
Oh,
But
yeah. Yeah, I think we were doing that.
yeah. I mean, whether like it works or not, it's a good source of fuel and energy. So
Absolutely.
yeah. But other than that, I don't have any, really strange concert rituals or anything like that. It just kind of, I mean, really the day of, like if you're ready, you're ready, right? It's too late if you're not ready. So
Yeah. And you're just hoping and praying that you're not.
yeah.
If you're not.
Yeah.
Speaking of concerts, can you tell me more about your recent and upcoming projects?
Yeah, I mean, I've only just been doing recordings. I haven't had any. Although I did play it for my first live audience back in November. I played in a little chamber orchestra thing for the ESO. We did like a 2-horn concerto. That was really cool. It was a few performances, but that was the first time I had seen an audience since March 11th, I think it was, of 2020. And I haven't seen another one since then. So it's, yeah. But yeah, I've just been making recordings. I made a recording just a few days ago for the Health Arts Society of Alberta. I don't know if you know about them, but they have this wonderful series right now where it's called Concerts in Care, and it's recitals recorded by professional musicians for the seniors in the seniors' homes in Alberta, and like they get it streamed in their homes, and they also have their own tablets, and we can watch these concerts. And yeah, it's a really wonderful project. And so I was lucky to be able to do that, and yeah, just making some recordings with people for different organizations. And I don't really know, things kind of aren't planned very far in ahead right now because things aren't open right now. And so I don't know when we'll be able to have concerts again, but I know a lot of musicians are gearing up to play outdoors again as soon as it's warm. But of course, as a pianist, that's like not as much of an option. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could have the keyboard. I haven't done that. I didn't do that last summer, but maybe we'll be trying to do something like that, rent a digital keyboard and play some Brahms outside or something. I don't know.
Or you could always do a solo concert with the piano indoors and people viewing you from outside, I guess, or having a screen.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I know a friend of mine, she lives in the States, and apparently she did something similar to that because her piano was right beside like a set of doors that would opened right up, and so people were able to sit outside while she was playing inside. So yeah, if there was that type of setup, that would be pretty good.
Absolutely. That would be really awesome if you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I do have one more question, but I really had a great conversation with you about everything. My final question is, how would you celebrate International Women's Day?
Oh, yeah. So, well, in terms of the society that I was speaking about earlier, the Recital Society, we planned that concert featuring just female musicians and female compositions. And last year I played the same program, but I played it twice, in honor of Women's Day. And it was the same kind of thing. It was me and my friend, Virginie Gagné, who's a female violinist. And we played all, female compositions. And, but, aside from what you can do musically, I think it's important to that day and that month, but all year long, right? Like really celebrate and raise each other up, like, acknowledge people's accomplishments and their gifts and all the wonderful things that all the women around the world do, all the women that we know, right, and that have given us so much. And so yeah, I think just to recognize each other and speak up for each other.
Yes, advocacy is a really huge thing for women, especially with today's climate, and I think that's absolutely, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for all the insight and for the conversation. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. It was nice to talk to you.
Hopefully we'll be able to play a concert or do some recordings in the near future.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm really looking forward to that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who tuned in and watched, thank you. After this, there will be a wonderful performance of Sarah, so please enjoy. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, please practice safe social distancing and make sure you are well. Take care.